Okay. All right, well, the time is 5 o'clock and I'm going to call the meeting to order as vice chair of the committee. This is the Fascinating Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. It is 5:01 p.m. on Thursday, April 27th, 2023. For introduction of Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee members, I see that we have the following folks present at today's meeting: Susan Bissell, Jim Richardson, Peter Stern, Larry Zervos, Travis Nybert, and that's it for committee members. We don't have any committee members online. For fast planning staff, we have present myself, Olivia Lunsford, Jackson Fox, Corey DiRuliano, and Deborah Todd. And we do have a guest in the audience. Would you like to state your name for the record?
I'm Matt Burrell. I found out about FAST at the home show.
Thank you. Yeah.
And you were attending.
Awesome. Okay, so if there's anyone present whose name I did not call, please raise your hand and unmute yourself or unmute yourself. The hybrid life. All right, this takes us to item number 3 on the agenda, which is the approval of the April 27th, 2023 meeting agenda you see in front of you on the screen. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
I'll move that we accept the agenda as previous.
Okay.
Come on in.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay. Motion made by Mr. Zervos and seconded by Mr. Richardson. Are there any changes to the agenda today? All right. Hearing none, is anyone opposed to the approval of the April 27th, 2023 meeting agenda as presented? Okay, we will consider the agenda approved. Moving right along to item number 4 on the agenda, which is the meeting minutes. This would be the approval of the February 23rd and March 8th. That was a special meeting, 2023 meeting minutes. These are on pages 2 through 8 of your packet. I'll just kind of cruise through them and then ask, do I have a motion on the minutes? Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Mrs. Bissell, seconded by Mr. Zervos.
Got a correction
Okay, yep, I was just about to ask if there are any edits.
on page 4, second to last paragraph. This court is saying it's illegal for bicycles to ride on the sidewalks within the city of Fairbanks. I think what I said was downtown.
Okay. We will get that corrected. Just make a note. Downtown. All right, I have made that note. Are there any other edits to either sets of minutes? Okay, hearing none, with the edit that Mr. Stern pointed out, is anyone opposed to the approval of February 23rd and March 8th meeting minutes as presented? Okay, hearing none, we will consider those approved, and we will now move on to item number 5 on the agenda.
Which you said March 8th?
Yes, it was a special meeting.
March 7th?
Oh, March 7th, sorry. Number 5 on the agenda, staff working group chairs report. Mr. Fox, would you please start off giving us this report?
Yeah, you go to page 9.
Mhm.
So I'll get you all up to speed on the last 4 meetings that have occurred since the last time we met, which was March 7th, because we canceled the end of March Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So starting with our technical committee meeting on March 1st on page 9 there, 2 items relevant to this committee. One was with regard to the proposed crosswalk and rectangular rapid flashing beacon on College Road at Farmers Market. The policy board chair asked the technical committee to look at that installation again and comment on whether or not the technical committee thought that that was the appropriate installation for that location, or if something more robust would need to be put in, like a hawk signal like you see on University Avenue that actually stops the traffic at a red light as opposed to just a yellow flashing light. all the way up to potentially signalizing that intersection with a traffic signal for that crossing. And we did get a presentation from DOT Traffic and Safety engineers on that project, and they went over the different warrants for those different treatments for a crossing on a 4-lane roadway with a relatively high speed. And based on the conversation with DOT Traffic and Safety and our technical committee members, they recommended to the policy board to continue with the current design of a painted crosswalk and rectangular rapid flashing beacon. Nothing larger at this time, but they are asking that DOT perform a study at that crosswalk location with basically what it would be is a camera set up at the crosswalk location that monitors not just pedestrians crossing there 24 hours a day, but it also monitors vehicle yield rates as they approach the crosswalk and the lights are flashing, whether people slow down and actually stop or just kind of run through it. So in that study would occur the following summer after it's installed. So that was a technical committee's recommendation that went to the board, and I'll tell you what the board said in a minute. But they also they recommended the policy board approve the letter that was written by the Bike and Ped Advisory Committee supporting House Bill 8, which provides a definition for electric bikes in state statute. Okay, so then the next meeting was on March 15th on page 10. Going to the policy board. So in addition to at that meeting approving our long-range transportation plan, they also approved our short-range transportation improvement program, which outlines the funding for local projects from 2023 through 2027. And there were and provided the recommendation on the crosswalk at Farmers Market and College Road. There was no motion related to that. It just stayed in the funding plan. So this project is supposed to go out to bid here this month, but the crosswalk and rectangular rapid flashing beacon will be installed before the end of summer out there on College Road.
This summer?
This summer. Yep, it'll go in this summer.
There was a discussion about putting a hawk in there, a hawk system there.
There was discussions across the entire spectrum of not putting a crosswalk in there altogether or putting in a crosswalk with the rectangular rapid flashing beacon and some of these bigger signal treatments like a hawk signal or a traditional traffic signal. So the cost, of course, escalates much higher when you get to those. But DOT didn't feel like they had enough data to warrant something any larger than the current treatment that was proposed. So we're putting in a couple $100,000 for this installation, but we'll have more data with that study and a camera that's put up to see if at some point in the future a bigger treatment's warranted there. And DOT did commit that based on what they see on the camera, if there's safety concerns at that location, they will use Highway Safety Improvement Program funds. So not our funds, but they'll use their own funds to upgrade that crosswalk location. So that was a generous offer by them. And then lastly, the policy board not only approved the letter that the Bike and Ped Advisory Committee wrote regarding House Bill 8, but they made a motion to endorse House Bill number 8. And so that endorsement and the letter were distributed to our interior delegation, which this House Bill number 8 is going through a variety of different legislative committees at this time. So, and I have testified at 2 of the committee meetings so far on this, but all of the committees seeing House Bill 8 are now seeing our letter and this endorsement. So hopefully it gets passed in this session. All right, then page 11, getting into this month here, April. I brought forward a funding strategy for the 28 project nominations that were recently submitted to us for our congestion mitigation and air quality funds and our new carbon reduction program funds. I don't have all of the project cost estimates prepared yet by DOT for all the projects nominated. So this was simply a funding strategy outlining for both the technical committee and policy board which funding source I intend to use and generally what year that funding would hit for getting projects in design and then what year they would be constructed. Also, there was a variety of equipment purchases that were nominated to us that I proposed in this funding strategy to just go ahead and this summer purchase all of the equipment that was nominated to us using funds from last year that haven't been spent yet, because that's easy to burn down some money that has a deadline associated with it. And also the equipment nominations to us were all related to sidewalk snow removal equipment. So the hope is that we can get new equipment delivered for both the borough max transit system to do snow clearing in front of bus stops, as well as the two pieces of equipment that the city of Fairbanks Public Works Department requested, so that this equipment's in place for use this coming winter. So we'll see how fast these things move. Oh, you have a question? Hey, go ahead.
Comment. I
Yep.
actually work for DOT.
Yeah.
I'm in the equipment fleet side.
Yep.
Not the maintenance side. Lead time on sidewalk size removal is
Yep.
approximately 18 months right now.
I was worrying about that, so we need to get bids out and we'll see what reality is, yeah. But the equipment that was nominated to us was not the holders. You've seen those?
Yeah, we're
That's-
phasing those out.
Yeah, right. That, so is the city of Fairbanks. So it's a trackless M7 and then some snow raiders. If you've seen those before, they look like a four-wheeler that you stand on right behind to plow sidewalks with. So maybe these are a little bit easier to source, but we'll see. So, okay. And then on the next page, page 12 for the policy board, they approved the funding strategy that I proposed, and I'll present that to you here next. Also, just a note here that the Fifth Avenue reconstruction project, the low bid came in about $900,000 over what the engineer's estimate was, jointly prepared by the city and DOT. And we had a very, very long discussion on April 19th about how to pay for that. And I presented a variety of options. The end conclusion was, the action was that the policy board granted the money, and we're taking it from the mini street project, which pushes the mini street project out a year from where it's currently in our funding plan. So, and I know mini street has been pushed out before for a similar situation, but in any event, that was the decision that was made. The option I actually favored was just having the city council pay for it out of the capital budget, but politically that wasn't popular, so we selected another city road project to delay 1 year instead of going that route. So just a recap of that. All right, page 13 has the signed copy of the Bike and Ped Committee's letter supporting House Bill number 8 that again went to, no, that's later in the packet. This letter is to the city of Fairbanks, delivering the concept recommendations for the bike lane sign and striping project, which is on the wall behind you here. That was what was the subject of the March 7th special Bike and Ped Advisory Committee meeting. So those concepts have been delivered to the city. They do not intend to begin working on that project until I provide them the $100,000 to begin their design. And I expect that to be provided to them in June. So in June, they will take a hard look at this and let you all know if there's any deviations from concepts that you all have created for them. So I do expect there to be some deviations. And so hopefully they will work with us on those changes. All right.
Understand we would like feedback as quickly as possible so that we can provide alternate suggestions.
Yes.
It's hard to know.
Yeah, Bob Pristash and Jeff Jacobson are very well aware that this committee is very interested in learning about what decisions they make with the proposed routes. They may not include some of these, they may change it to a different location, or they may change the actual design that's on these. So
Is the striping still gonna happen this summer?
no, it's next summer.
Next.
Yep, we're giving them $100,000 to complete the design based on the concepts to be put out to bid next spring. All right. So just I'm not going to go over this in detail, but I do have a 4-page summary here in the packet beginning on page 14 that outlines the funding strategy that I presented to the technical committee and policy board for the 28 project nominations that we received for these air quality funds. It was interesting to see that the top 2 scoring projects were related to max transit to provide them a new subscription for what's called SaaS, or software as a service, so that folks can do fare payments, see live bus route tracking, bus schedules, et cetera, through an application on your phone. That was the highest scoring project, followed by free ticketing for Max Transit for UAF students and staff, seniors, and primary school students up to the age of 19, as well as subsidized ticketing for all other routes, but not free ticketing for all other routes. And then that was followed by a long list of improvements for the Morris Thompson Cultural and Visitor Center, including a rectangular rapid flashing beacon on Wendell Street at its intersection with Dunkel, supporting that bus shelter that's on Wendell Avenue in front of the Visitor Center, as well as some new path connections between the parking lot and that bus shelter. A new bicycle repair station, which we were talking about earlier here in the meeting, converting some of the lighting out there from to LED lights. And it feels like there was a few other things. And replacing their digital message board sign that they have up there that's not functioning currently. It's about 15 years old, and including air quality messaging in that. And then below that is continuing on with DOT's Northern Region Signal Interconnect project, but out in the North Pole area predominantly, though there are some locations in South Fairbanks along Van Horn to connect some of these outlined signals to their traffic control center. And then an automated train switch on University Avenue, which is currently a manual switch as they are going into the main rail yard. They have to stop the train, someone has to jump out, flip the switch, get back on the train, and then go. So the train actually gets stopped on the tracks momentarily. But this way they can just push a button from the cab of the train and it'll switch the track so they can get in the main rail yard so you won't stop on University Avenue. So those are the top 5. Behind that, a variety of improvements for the downtown parking garage, including wayfinding signs, marketing campaign for use of that facility, a big neon arrow.
Neon arrow, that's the vision.
To get people to, make the entrance a lot more visible.
Mhm. Maybe something about vacancy rates too. I was thinking about that, like how many spots there are, so that people just know right off the bat instead of having to go in and explore.
Corey's on it. He's working on, getting some quotes to have cameras put in there so that on the outside of the building, there's a sign that says, there's 200 free spaces in here right now, whatever the count it is. So we're going to include that as part of this. But also doing new striping of the parking spaces in the garage, replacing old signs, bicycle repair station near their bike lockers in there, new locking systems for their bike lockers. And then another interesting one is there's a bus stop at the parking garage, but right through a door is a nice warm space, little foyer inside the parking garage. So folks could wait for the bus, hit a button, and then a light comes on outside saying that there's bus patrons waiting inside. So the bus, even though they don't see people standing on the sidewalk, they know to stop, and then people will walk out the door so they can stay warm during the winter.
Mhm.
I'm gonna lose my breath here.
Oh, it's popular in Canada.
Yeah.
That's where I got
Anyway,
that
long
idea.
list of stuff for the parking garage. And then below that, a bundle of electric vehicle charging stations throughout the community. There's a number of charging stations proposed to be in different parking lots at Pioneer Park, at the Fairbanks Nolan Library, at the North Pole Library, Carlson Center, a couple of parking lots up at UAF campus, electric vehicle charging stations at the Visitor Center, also at the parking garage. And so this is a bundle of charging stations that would be distributed, if you look at it on a map, relatively well spread out and equally spread out throughout Fairbanks and North Pole. And then a couple new roundabouts, one at the entrance to the West Valley High School, not on Geist, but off of Geist on the interior roads that serve that campus. And then one at the intersection of Sheep Creek Road and West Tanmont Drive.
What's level 3 electric vehicle charging station? What does that mean?
So
Fast.
fast one, yeah. A level 1's like parking in your garage and it takes you 8 to 10 hours to charge it up. A level 2 is like if you park at a grocery store and you're going in for an hour or two, you come back and it's fully charged. A level 3 is like you plug it in and 15 minutes later, you're on your way. And it's fully charged. So a level 3 station can cost up to $1 million. So level 2s are super cheap, 50 grand a pop. Using federal money and getting DOT involved, they're gonna cost $100,000 a pop. But, and then level 1 is kind of like plugging your car into a head bolt heater, you know, in a parking lot. It'll still charge your car, but it's, if you have the right adapter, but it takes a long time to charge it up.
I think I saw a story that said that Walmart was talking about putting in chargers in the parking lots. And I don't know where that's going to be, but it might be worth a conversation with them to find out what they're planning on doing, even though, you know, we can't be involved in it, or at least to be some understanding
Right.
of private sector installations.
So Libby, if you'll scroll up just a little bit to number 7, I think it is. So part of this as well is this year to kick off a local electric vehicle infrastructure deployment plan to look for those kind of public-private partnerships. So look around town where there's interest at businesses to host one of these electric vehicle charging stations, and we can provide some federal money as long as they pay a little bit of match into it. But we might be able to reduce the cost of these installations for that business owner to encourage or incentivize them to put up a charging station in their lot. But so these are conversations that haven't happened, but through this planning effort, that's kind of the primary audience, is to go after these public-private partnerships and see where there's interest. But another example is like 3 Bears out in North Pole, the new grocery store coming up. They're just gonna, as part of the building project, they're just putting up EV charging stations along with it and not asking for any money. So we may see a little bit of that. Yeah, the only publicly accessible charging stations we have in our community right now is at the Golden Valley parking lot. There's a few other around town, but it's for specific user groups or business patrons. So, all right, next page. We're planning to purchase 4 hybrid sport utility vehicles for the borough for staff use to pilot a hybrid vehicle fleet program. Mixing in, so the hybrids would have a small gas tank as backup in case the charge is out, get them back to where they need to get back to. High school access and circulation plans. This was a DOT project nominations. Specifically, they want to look at the West Valley and Hutchinson kind of combined high school campus, Lathrop High School and North Pole High School, to look at traffic circulation, especially with student drivers that tend to fill up those lots pretty heavily and sometimes conflicts with bus drop off and parent pick up and drop off. Another one here that Corey's working on with Borough Parks and Rec is the Chena Lake Recreation Area, a new connection via Plaque Road. The end of Plaque Road, once you cross Nelson, it turns from pavement to gravel. It's about a half-mile stretch to the backside of the Chena Lake Recreation Area, not lakes. Got corrected on that. But to make some road improvements and some bike ped connections to the recreation area, but also put in a new parking lot and trailhead on Chena Lake Recreation Area property and connect up that trailhead to the existing trail system around the lake. And then we have our airport area non-motorized pathway finding signs for that new pedestrian path we built last summer that connects the terminal out to the new path on Dale Road so that folks can walk to and from the area hotels from the main terminal. So the signs that you all worked on, that is getting funded through this program. And then some additional motor vehicle plugins, some additional ones out at North Pole City Hall, and then additional plugins at 3 different parking lots out at Pioneer Park. And then you'll see the snow removal equipment for the city of Fairbanks, trackless NT7, and then a couple Boss Snow Raider mags. And then we're waiting on Max Transit to tell us what piece of equipment that they want. But my guess is they're going to want something similar to what the city has. All right, and then the last page of the funding strategy, UAF has interest in converting their shuttle bus fleet to compress natural gas. So we will be installing a new fueling infrastructure station. We're at the same location where they currently fill up their shuttle bus fleet with gas and diesel. And then we will replace all of their shuttle buses with new shuttle buses that run off compressed natural gas. These two projects, they didn't score as high as others. So our plan is to try to get the fueling infrastructure and design built in 26, and then in 2026, we'll start buying them the buses. So there's going to be a delay on this one based on the amount of funding that's available. And we're just pushing it a few years out on that project. And then the next three projects below that for Tanana Lakes, which is a gravel to pavement project, the Gaffney Road sidewalk replacement, and the North Pole bus stop shelters. Those projects really didn't calculate any emission benefit for them. I mean, one's replacing a sidewalk that already exists. And then for Tanana Lakes gravel to pavement, it really only reduces dust emissions in the summertime, but it doesn't make any improvements towards air quality in the wintertime. And the North Pole bus stop shelters are a little bit complicated because they're not very expensive to build, but you'll have to build them on private property, which means with federal funds, you have to purchase that property to put the bus stop shelter there. So you'd have to do a small area of right-of-way acquisition, which is costly to go through the process, not to actually purchase it, but to go through the process. And then if you install a bus stop shelter with federal funds, all of the connections to and from that have to be ADA compliant. So this project would result in likely over $1 million to accomplish a bus stop shelter. However, the private business that's there can put up their own bus stop shelter, or local funds can be used to do that. It's just, this is not a good use of federal funds to accomplish that objective. So we're not proposing to fund those three projects at this time. And then the bottom one there, the North Pole lighting enhancements, that'll be converting all of their candy cane streetlights to LEDs. And we are going to do that underneath a contract change order with the contractor that's been hired to do the North Pole streetlight standardization project, which will be under construction this summer. So that's an easy one to get funded right away. Okay, and then my last item was House Bill 8. Here's a copy of the letter starting on page 18 of that went to the state legislature, stating our local support for electric, putting into statute a definition for electric assisted bicycles and classifying them as bicycles and not as motor vehicles or motor driven cycles. Sorry, that took up the first half hour of the meeting.
Thank you for that report. For the record, I would like to state that committee member Kim Streeter is also present. Yes, thank you again, Jackson. The CMAQ projects are super exciting. Can't wait to see those come to fruition. So we can now move on to item 6 in the agenda, which is the public comment period. So with that, if any member of the public wishes to speak about anything that's not listed on the agenda as an action item, which is everything today, we have no action items officially, please raise your hand or just speak up, starting with your name. No? Okay. All right, well, hearing no public comment, the public comment period is now closed. And the items that we do have on the agenda, we can totally incorporate some discussion with members of the public if you would like. So we can move on to item 7A in old business, which is eco counters, deployment locations, follow-up and planning. This is on pages 20 through 23 of your packet. And I can introduce this item. So as you see on page 20 in your packet, Julius Adolfson, the statewide bike and ped coordinator, reached out to us to see if we might have some ideas for locations for the eco counters the state recently acquired. And as you all know, we talked about potential locations back in August of last year. So we were very excited to receive this email because we were planning to circle back to this with you folks literally at this meeting. So that worked out super well. I showed you the list of locations that we had brainstormed in-house, which is on page 22 of this packet right here. Jim, I did want to make a note. You had asked me to add Cowles and I added it to the map, but not this list, but it is on the map. So aside from that, I created the simple map that's just on this next page that I'll show you just to highlight the potential distribution of the eco counters. So between fast planning's 4 mobile ones and then the 5 that the state would want to give us, that's 9 mobile counters that we could implement throughout the community during May through September, I believe Lisa's email said. And we're hoping that this committee can help us decide which intersections to recommend to the state and then kind of bundle that in with where we should deploy our 4. So this is the map that just kind of shows all the locations that would coincide with what's on your list. Just to show distribution in general. I was planning on it being interactive, but my map is broken for some reason. So these are the 2 permanent ones that already exist. This one's down at Pioneer Park and this one is across that bridge. Is it Wendell? No, it's right before Wendell, the pedestrian bridge.
It's at Goldmark Plaza,
Golden Heart Plaza.
near the pedestrian bridge across the river.
So as far as we know, those are the only 2 permanent ones and all of the mobile ones are inactive and currently hanging out in our other office. So we can go back to the other list and just kind of talk about the locations, but ideally I would love to walk away with the BPAC's select 9 locations to suggest to both DOT and fast planning for deployment of these counters today.
So how many permanent locations are you looking for?
None right now, because
None.
we had proposed that list for potential acquisition of new permanent gear eventually, but we are not there yet. So those were just the ones that I had suggested for permanent. So if we want to see, maybe you could just, maybe we could deploy a mobile one at one of those locations and then see like, wow, this would be really cool to have permanent data here. It seems like this is only trending towards more use. Then that could help. So we could really just look at the entire list and pick and choose. And I don't know about Julius and their particular strategy, but we could also like pick them up and move them halfway through the summer if folks were curious about multiple places.
Yep.
So I don't really know what they're thinking about the state data, if they're wanting it over a whole period of time, but.
They're looking for recommendations from locals on where they should be deployed. And so I guess all we're trying to provide is an initial list of, if Julius has got 5, we tell them, put them in these 5 places. And then we as staff will put the 4 that we have in the other office. We'll deploy those to the 4 different locations that we provide to him. But yeah, I mean, we could collect data for a month and then move them to a different location another month and then move them again. Or maybe you want continuous counts from, you know, June 1st to August 31st at one location.
So. It's. Much traffic, that route that goes underneath the Finger Bridge, sees.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That needs like some serious maintenance. And I know I talked to Corey about the fact that the convex mirror.
Yep.
That's been broken for 2 years now. And I've been playing the DOT and the city both, and everybody kind of goes, it's not our.
Maybe we should just buy one and reinstall it. It's
Yeah.
not-
We should.
We got enough money. We got enough money at fast
I mean,
planning.
that's definitely like, it's a seasonal thing, because it's. As breakup comes, you get all the mud underneath there, and then somebody finally gets sick of it, and the mud gets cleared. It'd be interesting to see how much traffic goes through there. If it'd be worth finding another option.
But that's not-
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any numbers.
Yeah, that's a good call. I mean, personally, I take that route every time I bike to work.
We just have to
I
put above the high
get
water. mark.
something on the.
I avoid that route on
Both sides
purpose.
path.
The Joe
Because
Hansen.
that's
It's all wet and
a
grit.
problem for me that they try to ignore it in the winter time. And I think there's a lot more, would be a lot more use of that path if we got some real numbers for it. Because there are a lot of people who use it. And if we're gonna do College Road, of course, you gotta get both sides of College Road too. And we're not gonna get the Geist Parks Highway shared use path at the light. I think that one should be put in as a mobile one.
It's parks on the list. So which, I guess, specify the location on it.
Well, at the light, the off ramp from the.
Yeah, like where it scoops around and then
So
you
that
hit
you
Geist
go,
or-
down Geist, or you can continue across,
Mhm.
heading toward Esther.
It's like one of the most favorite spots for people during bike ped counts too.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be a good spot, Peter, especially because it's like a confluence of so many access points for people. You've got the Chena Pump neighborhood and then what's your neighborhood, Deb? Loftus area or Loftus? Yeah, you have that neighborhood and then you've got the school. So, yeah, that's a good call.
So College Road, where?
Maybe it should be in the vicinity of the, you know, farmer's market.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
I mean, College Road's so long, you could deploy them at more than one location.
Mhm. I think that for the other end, having it on the east or south side of the Johansson to kind of see how many people are going to like the downtown and shopping areas over there on College. would be good too.
Okay.
It's a good
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah, all right. Yeah, because that's the least, I mean, from my observation, the least used section.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, you're talking about like near Costco and such, right? Or no?
Basically,
About like just south of the Johansson Bridge, Johansson Overpass. Like near that Roxy secondhand store, right where
like the
the track, right where the
Illinois.
railroad traffic,
Illinois.
right where the railroad goes
Well,
across.
Let's see. So one problem with College Road, that section of College Road is it's getting repaved this summer.
So there
And they're
won't be
doing
people-
80 upgrades.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that people are gonna avoid that
right.
section of College like the plague, both bikes and peds and vehicles. So probably a really good location for the future. But then again, I always thought it would be interesting to get bike and ped counts like before and during construction.
Mhm.
So you have an idea of like what people are doing and then what stops happening. So maybe as a fast deployment before the project actually breaks ground, maybe it's a good idea. We'll leave it out there. until I don't know. Unless DOT thinks it might be in the way. Yeah.
Can I comment?
Yeah.
My name's Melinda Harris. Larry Zeros knows me. I was looking at your list earlier projects wise, and I did not notice it, but the Steese Tunnel to provide an underpass for pedestrian bike traffic, does that figure into the current discussion that you have? And in terms of counting traffic, it seems that a count could be useful there.
That's a good point, yeah.
And
It's
I
gonna be a
think
hot
what
topic
they're-
at
what
tonight's
they're
assembly
trying-
meeting.
Yeah, it seems to be falling in. I get updates on that from Eric Troyer and
Yep.
as it relates more to trails, but they're trying to tie in Birch Hill
Mhm.
with a crossing under the Steese
Yep.
Highway, and I'm familiar with the bike and pedestrian path, it's like a Farmerson's extension.
Yep.
Feeds into bike path there. I don't know where would be an ideal spot to put your counter, but that seems to be a current hot topic, and
Great
currently
suggestion. Yeah.
before the assembly.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that's a good call.
Great suggestion. I like it.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of traffic on the south side of Airport Way also, surprisingly.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's everything from the separated path to the sidewalks and stuff on that side. So it might be worthwhile, you know, trying to get some data off of that portion.
Whereabouts? I mean, like Cowles Bridge crosses or?
No, I'm farther down toward Pioneer Park where it becomes a separated path.
Yeah. We had
On
also
the
talked
south
about
side?
the.
Oh, sorry, I was just thinking of
Oh,
where the separated path was.
yeah, on the south side. It kind of starts near,
I think it's Wilbur.
yeah, Wilbur.
Because I'm in the road right up
Chain link
until
fence.
Wilbur and then I cut up.
Yeah. We had also talked about maybe putting these counters in the overpasses, the one on Geist and then the one on Airport. But that might be more effective for when school's in session. So we could,
Oh, just seeing the kids are walking over the
yeah,
sky bridges.
yeah, so we could get kind of an idea of the actual usage. And also winter we had talked
Have
about.
you ever gotten any data off of Badger Road's path?
That I can't
No.
answer.
No, we've never deployed one out there.
I mean, I think, at both ends of Badger Road, it might be good to look at those.
We do have that on,
Yeah, you find out if
It's
you
not.
ATV on.
so both ends of Badger. So let me just do a count real quick. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, that's basically 9 if we have underneath Pegger Road, the Johansson North Side paths or path, 2 points on College Road, where the Stees Tunnel could be going, both ends of Badger, and then one on the south side of Airport. I believe that's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
For this East Johansson Tunnel, I think you'd want to put it right where the path comes on Johansson and then turns to go up the Stees towards
Yeah, the
Farmers
corner.
Loop extension.
Yeah.
Because there's a break in the fence right there where people can then cross over to that neighborhood that's south of the cemetery.
Yeah, Roselle Estates, yeah.
Cool. Well, so a lot of those locations, we have Badger Road on this list.
Mhm.
We had talked about Pegger, but a different location, but we're still getting Pegger on there. Oh yeah, the unpaved shared use path at Miller Hill Road is also a bit curious to me, but it might not be a priority right now.
Isn't it already slated to get paved
I don't think it's slated
as
to
part of the Yankovic plan?
be, I
It'd be
don't,
repaved, yeah.
is it the, but it's gravel?
Is that the one where it's broken halfway? Like
Yeah, it's like paved for part of it
Right,
and then it's
right.
gravel. They're
Yeah.
gonna pave the rest. of
They
it.
are.
It's part of the Yankovic.
Oh,
project,
okay,
yeah.
good. Never mind. I for some reason thought it wasn't. Okay, well, I think that that's a great list to start with, and I don't know if anyone,
Are the two that we have now, are they permanent?
the two that are active are
Okay.
permanent, yeah.
But as an alternate somewhere down the line, I'd like to put one where the bridge is over Chena there going to the railroad property. It's currently not maintained, but it's been used, being used. I used it the other day myself.
The pedestrian bridge from like Pioneer Park towards that, okay,
Oh, heavily used on Thursday night.
right. You know, Strava shows that too, the Strava Metro data, it's like this little point right here. This little loop. Okay. All right, well, I'll definitely send a follow-up email with all of these kind of like listed out and put on a map so we can sort of visualize it and just make sure that it's distributed equitably, I would say. But I think that that's a really great place to start. And I'm comfortable with us moving on to the next item in your packet, which is item 8A. On pages, oh, we are very zoomed in. This is Peter's item, pages 24 and, wait, yes, 24 and 25, the College Road and Illinois Street intersection, signage locations and snow removal. So as I said, this was added by Peter, a BPAC committee member. And I was wondering if you could introduce the item. I also have your additional 3 photos queued up. Okay.
Later in the meeting.
Okay.
So ever since they redid this intersection, snow removal in the winter on the northwest corner of the college and the Illinois intersection has been terrible. And in part it's because the control box kind of sits in the transition there between the sidewalk and separated path. And then they put the yield sign there, and then we've got the bike route sign. So basically you can't get a piece of equipment to clear the sidewalk. And so you end up with an impassable area there that you have to walk into the roadway to get around and get back onto the sidewalk. And it seems to me that if they could just relocate those 2 signs to provide a good path for equipment to get through there, it would be a relatively simple fix. And I know, Jim, you had a comment about that earlier in one of your emails.
Yeah, I mean, that corner is horrible. And I don't understand how they ever got through a design to put the control, you know, it doesn't agree with the rural policy about having a obstruction at a corner. And how it ever ended up there is just incredible.
Well, I was just looking for what should be a relatively cheap fix.
Yeah.
It's also in a section of the roadway that's gonna be under maintenance during the summer, and so, you know, if they could figure out a way to move those signs and provide a clear path, I think it would be extremely beneficial. So I was hoping that the DPAC could make that request to DOT.
Lowe's does some casual demolition work if you get them at the right time of year. Just put a Lowe's truck right
I think the additional problem though for clearing that is that the college portion of it is DOT. And the family portion of it is the
The
city.
city, yeah.
And that, you know, the corner opposite that, the southwest corner is not much better.
That might just be a conversation that you need to have with DOT, because there's reciprocal service agreements between the two agencies. I've worked for both. And like, the frontage road, there's that, over behind, not CarQuest, AutoZone, or whatever that is, off airport, the street that goes behind.
Sportsman's Way.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
some of those, and then like over by Safeway on the west side of town,
Mhm.
that's actually a state road, but the city maintains it. So there are existing RSAs
Mhm.
to handle that, and that might just be somebody needs to be informed, and then they can put something together.
The coordination between the city and the state sometimes leaves a whole lot to be desired, and Wembley and Danby and Aurora Drive are a classic example of that. You know, you end up with a partial clearing job, which gets really frustrating. So, yeah, that's something that needs to be brought up at the Seasonal Mobility Task Force again.
Mhm.
But anyway,
I think it'd be good.
We can come up with a simple solution to fix this problem.
Yeah, the next meeting we have with that task force, we should bring these photos. I mean, I know this summer, this section of College Road is gonna get repaved, right? And even this corner, all of that concrete is gonna get replaced, because it's not ADA compliant. So, but I was looking at, so I have the plan set now, I got it from DOT, it's on our server. But man, I was staring at the drawings of for the sign schedule for where everything was gonna be put back, and it's at such a small scale, I can't. It looks like it's, you know, not gonna be put back in this location, but it's awfully close. So,
Well, this raises another problem for me, because I was looking at the plan set for the Cushman Airport project.
Yep.
And it's really difficult to figure out where the signs are gonna be on that. They're proposing, you know, to put these pedestrian islands.
Mhm.
It's part of that construction, and you can see where you can hopefully try and figure out where the signs are, but sometimes I kind of wonder if they're thinking about winter maintenance when they decide where those signs have to be. I know that from NACTO and NACTO, there are certain requirements for yield signs and stuff like that, but still, there needs to be better coordination on sign placement.
So what would be like a reasonable action moving forward? You just kind of act as the liaison between the BPAC.
well, we haven't yet this year, but we need to call a meeting of the Seasonal Mobility Task Force, and probably May would be a good month to do it.
Okay.
So we'll send out a doodle poll to get them together,
Sure.
and I'll come up with an agenda, but I think we just show them these pictures, and then we can bring in the designer, which is, I believe, Russ Johnson over at DOT, that put together the repaving section, plan set for College Road. And then maybe he can show us on the drawings exactly how this is gonna get put back. Because we did, when that project was in design, we did submit an official request to move this control box behind the sidewalk. And they said, no, we're not doing that.
Well, that's what I thought was the situation.
But maybe we can resolve
Really
the signs
expensive.
at least, come on.
Yeah, and so
Give us
that's why I
something.
thought that at least if they heard from the DPAC that this is an
Yeah.
issue and that, you know, we need a solution for it, it would be beneficial. So I don't know if the committee wants to send a letter.
I think, yeah, we can just invite folks to make this a topic of the next seasonal mobility task force. So we can all look at this, because I mean, beyond the issue of the sign post placements, it's, we need to talk about the coordination between the city and DOT as to what happens at this intersection. And but it's, to get around all that, you have to walk in the travel lane of turning traffic to get around it. So it's, and this is not the only pinch point like that in the community. There's lots of them, especially on Old Stees. Yeah, Old Stees and Third Street is a bad one. So I'll commit to doing that, adding it to the agenda. We'll get out a doodle poll and we'll pull them together for a May meeting.
Yeah, I think that that would be beneficial to talk about, and we like to do that anyways, to kind of talk about how the winter went, so. Okay. Well, thank you, Peter, for bringing that to the committee, and we'll look forward to having more conversation about it. We can now move on to item 8B under new business, which is Max Transit Aurora Subdivision Fixed Route on page 27 of your packet. I just wanted to note that this came as a result of the weekend that Corey and I spent at the IABA home show. We pretty much lived there for the whole weekend. We got tremendous amounts of feedback. We were able to have ample face time with the community, as shown by one of our attendees tonight. And that was the major goal. And we were also able to inform many new folks about fast planning and connect the dots for others. So this particular item, I would love for Corey to elaborate on, as he is our transit planner.
I started sharing on the drive this year. So part of my time here at FAST is transportation planning, but the other half is transit planning. So I've been working with Max Transit on a number of things. Those two projects that you saw submitted, the overhaul of their sort of services, software as a service. So a new phone app, tracking, booking, et cetera, as well as the subsidized ticketing. And this was an issue that was brought up by a couple community members, the closure of the bridge at Aurora Drive, and the determination that no service would proceed up Aurora. So this kind of shows you the additional travel distance. If you're at worst case scenario and you were trying to pick up a stop there, if you traveled south and over to where the remaining stops were on Danby, it had almost 20 minutes of time. And we were sort of informed that there's a lot of senior citizens in that area that use public transit. So this is kind of a non-starter certain times of the year, and even in good conditions. So we started working with Max Transit and talking with business owners in the area. Basically what we discovered is that there's a couple things. One, Max Transit, it's completely against their policy, and they'll fire or dismiss drivers that go in reverse. So there's no way for them to go do any 3-point turns because the buses are just not permitted to go in reverse. They have in the past taken routes through neighborhoods as part of temporary detours, and they've had a lot of pushback from community members when there's a 30 or 40-foot bus coming through their neighborhood effectively every 15 minutes, when you've got 30-minute schedules and they're offset by 15. So that combined with some of the tightness in the roads up at this kind of northern end of the neighborhood, one thought was, can you just do a loop and then come back down south? But again, they said they'd had bad experiences with neighbors, and especially neighbors with kids or neighborhoods with kids. So we spoke with a couple folks down here at the southern end of the neighborhood here. This is a map showing the respec office and Bend, Alaska. So on this map here, that's kind of down at sort of the bend. So sort of splitting the difference between the northernmost end of the neighborhood and the travel all the way over to Danby on this long stretch here. So it was determined that they could put a temporary stop in this location. Respect kind of volunteered their parking lot, and Bend, Alaska was okay with buses turning around on their lot. So starting on I think it was just this past Monday, on the 24th, they started service again for this temporary stop, as well as one stop on Aurora. So they put signs out on the posts that give kind of the updated information about it. So you can see that the red and blue lines still do travel over here. They pull at the stops here over on Burgess Avenue and then continue back on their standard route through that area. So I went by and took a look. They've got a temporary stop up here. Respec was talking about potentially putting out some seating or some improvement to that area, or we talked about it here at FAST. And I did drive through the route the other day, and the buses are kind of actively using that area and turning in and out of Burgess. So yeah, it's, they've got something. It's not every stop back on Aurora, but it is a stopgap measure until the bridge reopens in October.
Yeah, I had sent an email to the mayor about this too, because I was really not happy about the fact that you had to go all the way over there. the Danby. The fact that the bus stop is set way back and the parking lot is probably less than ideal. I was kind of hoping that it would be actually, in the respect parking lot, but right, at the sidewalk,
Yeah.
driveway entrance, so that it's obvious that it's there, because when I drove into the parking lot, I didn't see the temporary bus stop.
Yep.
I had to go looking for it, and it's actually almost in the Alaska Bend parking lot rather than the respect parking lot.
Yeah.
It is,
Can I share?
it's less than ideal, but
I think
it's
we
better
can
than
just
it was, so.
Yeah,
it's
let
good.
me,
Thank you.
I can show you that that was looked at. Share again. So we did look at a couple options. One of them was, could they just go all the way up to the top of the road where the bridge closure is, but DOT or the contractor is really taking over that entire island. So there's just not enough room to do it. The next best thing that we looked at was, could they do like a Tokyo drift, kind of hairpin turn there and swing the bus around? But in order to do it, it put them within 9 feet of the face of the Respect building. There's guest parking there, and they'd also have to do the left turn from the right-hand lane. So just based on the diameter of those buses and their turning radius, it's really tight to that. There are still 2 stops that I believe I saw for certain. There's a stop on this side of the road on the left there where the bus is stopping and someone was picked up. And I'm not sure if that's the case here too, but that might be, another area where people could get picked up if they don't want to go back into that Bend, Alaska area. So I can verify that.
And the other interesting thing is when the bus comes through there, you have no idea which direction that bus is going, because it comes through there both, westbound and eastbound. So which
But isn't-
direction is it?
Doesn't they each go only one direction on College, right? Red goes counterclockwise and blue goes
No,
clockwise.
I think they both make the loop.
I'm pretty sure they go opposite. One is always going west on College, the other one's always going east on College. So yeah, it's confusing in the sense that one's not going up Aurora and one's not coming down. But if you're getting on the blue line, it's still gonna take you where the blue line goes. If you're getting on the red line, you're still
I
gonna.
thought that if the blue line was headed back to the town, though, that it swings back through.
I should know this, but I don't. I'll pull up their charts, but I'm almost positive that, it doesn't matter if you get on the blue, you're still gonna end up where you thought you would when you normally get on your Aurora stop there. So that's kind of in place. And, again, for future reference, if anybody has any questions about Max Transit or their operations, please feel free to contact me, and I speak with their admin folks right now.
Thank you. Yeah, and that conversation also came about because there was a man who was concerned his wife doesn't drive and she's a senior, and he was saying that she rides the bus every day, and then there had been no notice in this area that that stop was going to be closed. So he was very concerned, and he was just kind of just talking to us about it. And it was a really great moment just to be like, we can help with this. We can do something about it. So fast planning for the win. So I just really wanted to share that with y'all. Just keep the energy up. And on that note, I have another really exciting thing that I'm super pumped to share with y'all. And that's item 8C on the agenda. And this is pages 27 through 35 of your packet. The title of this item is Bikeways Map / Bike Friendly Business Program, Survey and Distribution of Resources. So I'll go to page 27. So this is our Bikeways map. I did some modifications to the FMATS one just to get it to print last year. I did add the borough's historic signage walking tour last year. I also added the one bicycle maintenance station that we have that is now super vandalized and not really useful. So made some upgrades to it, but overall, I have had a game plan to overhaul this map since I started with fast planning. And one of the things that I've been really excited to do is include bicycle friendly businesses in town on this map. And Jackson and I have talked about this a lot. There's certain things that we have to do to be considerate of our funding source. We can't necessarily be advertising businesses, but we could have businesses sponsor the printing of the Bikeways map in exchange for having their logo put on the map. And then the idea would be that this essentially would be a legend that has the business logo, and it would say their name, their address, and then the bike-friendly amenities or incentives that they offer. So a really good example, we could use Goldie's downtown Fairbanks, blah, blah, blah. They have a bike rack. Black Spruce Brewing, they have a bike rack, a punch card club, a bike club that does rides on particular days of the week, and other incentives. So that was sort of what started this particular conversation. And I had this epiphany one night that maybe what we could do is just put a survey out to the community to find out about bike-friendly businesses, but then also do kind of like an exchange program, like, okay, you sponsor the Bikeways map, and then we help you either become bike-friendly in general or level up to the next level of bike friendliness that you're prepared to offer to the community. So this is the League of American Bicyclists. They have an attributes of a bicycle friendly business, which I had no idea about. So thank you, Google. And I basically took this sheet and created a survey, which I will show you here in a second, that I'm planning to push out to all the businesses. I'm planning to go there in person with my tablet, try to talk to owners and get as many businesses as I can to take this survey. Because what Jackson and I came up with by this whiteboard,
Also
which
behind
is
you.
also behind you, it was a pretty funny little hour that we had, but it sort of all came to a head when I had thought about offering like little pocket-sized bicycle repair kits as the swag item for the bicycle and pedestrian count this year, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I took it a step further and thought, okay, what if we could acquire several that are a bit more burly and then distribute them to businesses like the ones that I mentioned for public access? And then we could add those to the Bikeways map and say, there's a repair kit at this place. If you busted up your tire, you can stop at Black Spruce and ask for the repair kit. I've talked to a few businesses about it already. They all think it's a great idea. And so I reached out to Dorian Granger, the owner of Bankstown Bike and Ski, to see if he would be willing to help us build out these repair kits at cost. And in exchange, the kits would be branded as like the Bankstown Bike and Ski approved repair kits. So his stickers and his business cards would be in there. And the kits themselves are going to be the Park Tools Advanced Mechanic 5 set with a bike pump, and then we're adding in a couple of additional things as well. So the kit itself is going to total about $300 worth of supplies, and we're hoping to be able to purchase 15 of them and distribute them around the community and have these on the Bikeways map. So this is the survey that I've started working on, but I'm actually going to switch over to my browser because I've just kind of changed it up a little bit. So I'll try not to go too fast because I do want comments on it. The beginning is pretty straightforward. Business type, your website, what's your address? And the whole point of the survey is to both collect information for the Bikeways map, but then also help us at Fast Planning kind of gauge where certain businesses are at in terms of their bike friendliness and who would make the most sense to deploy these kits to. So number one, are bikes welcome? And then I have a couple questions in here that are leading questions. So if they say no, but we'd like to, can we discuss possibilities? We are hoping to in the future be able to distribute some more bike racks around town, as well as bicycle repair stations. So this is really just the start of this sort of huge bicycle friendly community program that is kind of going to all start with the repair kits. One of the other things about bike friendly businesses is the employee motivation and incentives to bike to work. So we offer up a lot of different options. A lot of these are similar to the League of American Cyclists, but there's also an option for no, tell me more. So this would be a great way for us to help encourage businesses to offer incentives kind of shaped to whatever it is that they do. And Corey and I talked about this eventually expanding beyond businesses. Like obviously the borough is bike friendly in certain places. They've got showers in certain buildings and bike racks at every single building. So we could start to really incorporate workplaces and where people go to school and just really gauge the bike friendliness of the community overall, but I think it starts with private businesses first. A couple more questions. Again, we're really just trying to find out if people are even interested in dedicating space to bike racks or these permanent repair stations. So we do have an option here for businesses if they've ever considered installing one. And there's we would really like one, can fast planning help? That basically is like, hey, we're planning to do this eventually. Straight up no, and then yes, but, and then they can tell us what the but is. Why are they not wanting to really do it?
You think one of those things by a business will be protected from the vandalism?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that because they're hosted, like, again, let's just use Black Spruce Brewing as an example because they are so bike friendly. I think that if it was hosted on their parking lot, it would be a lot safer from the vandalism. And then what would be cool about that is if they get one of the repair kits and then they eventually get the repair station, we could totally pass that repair kit on to someone else in town and just really keep track of what we're being responsible for in the community. I don't want this to turn into a thing, possibly in Fairbanks, like just loose ends. I don't want loose ends. I want us to always know where these kits are and to make sure that people have enough patches still and all sorts of stuff like that. So I'm willing to take those logistics.
So we need to talk about bicycle incentives, see a place, you ride your bike.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Free drink.
Yeah.
And so, and then across the street, Zorba on the Run would be a place that would be worth talking to, about putting in a bike rack or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's skipped over. I have that in a section. Do you offer incentives? I don't know why it's not on here, but it's in your packet.
Bruce does the punch card.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, those repair stations, they're not terribly expensive. $1,200 without a phone.
Yeah, that's why it would be very attainable for us as fast planning to eventually distribute them. So
And
it'd
then,
be really great.
as far as bike racks go, there's definitely preferred styles of bike racks.
Can I just still have?
That'd be good information for us if you have an opinion on that.
Either the staples upside down use.
Yep.
Or the popsicles where it's a straight up bar with a circle at the top.
Okay.
Those are the two best styles as far as security goes.
Wonder if it's worth trying to get businesses like Sourdough Fuel to add a bike repair stand next to their current air hose.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Yes, I think that would be really great. And we could approach them with a survey and just make sure that they would be game with that. It's just like, unfortunately, right now, that's not really what we're planning for. We're just trying to gauge community interest in general. So I think that would be awesome to talk to them about. And if someone wanted to champion that, that would be great. I have a lot of businesses to go to about existing stuff. So,
I mean, it might be something that the cycle club could find some volunteers to go to businesses or contact businesses as the club, but then to point them back towards
the survey.
your survey
That would be
or as like
great.
a follow-up from any of your survey.
Yeah, that would be so helpful.
Pioneer product.
Yeah. So portion of our bikeways map, we do have the sponsorship option. And then this is the kit that we're planning to build out. So it just does have a note about what the kit would include, and then depending on how far this survey reaches, it's likely that not everyone will receive one, but it's got the Big Blue Book of Bicycle Repair, which I actually bought a copy of this the other day from Dorian. It's very, very useful. And then this is the Advanced Mechanic Kit. So really anyone ranging from beginner, I just need to get home, and I'm having a beer at Black Spruce, I can work on my bike for 2 hours, like this kit is there. And since talking with Jackson and then Dorian about this, I've had probably 4 people tell me stories about being stranded somewhere in Fairbanks and not being able to fix their bike and having to either take a cab home or get a ride home. So this would just be a really, really cool tool. It would be on the digital version as well. And I'm just super excited to engage the community in general about just to get people to start critically thinking about their bike friendliness.
So
So
are the businesses gonna be responsible for trying to keep track of the inventory in the kit? Yeah, a lot of those things are really easy to walk off with.
yeah, I mean, hopefully like the bike community is responsible enough.
Hopefully,
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the bike community, like, I feel like we're all always asking for stuff like this. And it would just really be super unfortunate if it turned into something where tools just started walking off,
I
so.
do think that that kit is a little overkill. Don't get me wrong, I own every tool in that kit. But as far as like feasible repairs at a business, that's probably one step beyond where you need to go. And so if that kit's $500, if you can get a $300 kit.
Yeah.
That doesn't have the chain scrubber and the disc brake straightener and some of the other stuff in there, that might be cost saving.
Sure. I had talked to Dorian about it, and part of the idea is that it needs to be something that he is comfortable with putting his name on as well. And so, and his business's name, so the Bankstown Bike and Ski approved kit, so the whole range
Yeah,
of
all I'm
anyone.
saying is if you just step down kind of one level, they still put it in the toolbox. It's 90% of the same stuff. that-
Yeah, I understand. It's the home repair kit or whatever. It's the AK4. Yeah. I did look into that.
Maybe the Beaver Sports approved kit would be cheaper than the Bankstown kit.
Dorian is giving it all for us at cost, which is already knocking off $250 per kit. So I'm pretty appreciative of that, and I'm not gonna mess with that one little bit. So
Do we know if Mount McKinley Bank's gonna have the family bike ride again this year?
I don't know, but that's a good call, Peter.
Mhm.
I will look into that. And yeah, I can talk to Dorian about the level down of the Park Tools kit. It's just we already did. I was in there for 2 hours looking at all of the products, and he still was very confident that this was the one that we should go with. So I just want to have like a high quality product that Fast Planning and Bankstown Bike and Ski can say like, yep, and be happy about. So
Here's a suggestion. I think we're hopeful, thinking that those tools are gonna stay there. Could we lock it up? And when you wanna use it, you call a number and the number tells you the code. Because the bikers aren't gonna abuse it.
well,
It's the other people.
No,
that are
we-
gonna-
the idea is that it will be at a business. We're hoping to have signage, no, we're going to have signage either at the existing bike rack or a decal on the window that says this is number one, a Fast Planning designated bike friendly business. And then we want to have signage that says, did you get a flat on the way here? Or, messaging about someone needing to fix their bike, talk to our staff. So the business is taking the ownership and the responsibility because they are identifying as a bike-friendly business. Like, that's the idea, is garnering more community-wide responsibility for the things that we like. And this would accomplish that. And if it fails, it fails, but that's kind of the idea of a pilot program. And I would really like for other people who are wanting these things to have the opportunity to take that responsibility. And this is a pretty cost-effective and exciting way to start that, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm game to think about everything through some more. Obviously, this is why we're talking about it.
One thing to think about too is like if you do get a bunch of offers to keep these things, is not only spreading them out, but kind of spreading them out by business hours.
Yeah.
So that if you get a flat on your ride home from work and it's after 5, you're not gonna be able to find them.
That's a good call. I will add hours of business to the survey, because I need that for the map anyway. That's a really good call. So yeah, Peter, back to the PETA Place thing. I don't know why it's not on here, but I do have a question that asks, gosh, I don't know where it went. Yeah.
That's not nice.
Oh, well, thanks, Siri. Asking what they already offer. So, no. Like, I don't even know. I couldn't find it.
Point out to Zorbas that PETA Place is doing it, maybe they do something similar as far as offering a free drink.
Yeah. When I talked to Nadav the other day, and he was so excited. He was just like, you know what we've been doing here for years, right? I was like, yes, that's why I'm talking to you. The free drink. Not many people know about it still, so I want to put it on the map. So we felt like $75 was kind of an accessible barrier to entry, because obviously we couldn't have this wide open for, 200 businesses to try to be getting these kids. We don't have the capacity to do that right now, but we do want to get that information
But
about.
if you're gonna offer a digital version, it offers you more flexibility
Totally.
to be able to rotate, sponsorships through that and
Yeah.
changes on a regular basis.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're hoping for, is the future, the evolution of this being almost like a tiered level situation. So you're on the printed map, you're all on the digital map. And then the printed map has maybe varying size logos or varying amounts of information. So yeah,
Or we do like, instead of the bronze, the
bronze.
silver, the gold, we do the carbon, titanium, whatever,
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
steel is the
I
highest.
know.
Yeah,
Steel is
steel
the
is the
highest
highest, yeah.
rating.
Dorian took me down a 30-minute explanation
did.
about, I was like, so we don't know which one to go with. And he was like, well, and then I was.
So
trapped.
this question here says, your business will be put in the running to receive
Yeah.
one. Does that mean that?
Yeah.
That the repair kit then is owned by the business, or the repair kit is being hosted by the business, but the kit is still owned by Fast?
I think that they're giving away.
Yeah, they're
Give it
giving
away,
away.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like an award.
Well, earlier you said like if they built a repair stand, then we could move the kit to some other
Well,
business.
I think the idea here is that we don't know how much interest we'll get in, somebody wanting to be sponsored to be on the map and interested in this whole program. So say we get 25 businesses sign up, then we will hand select 15 to host it, and it will have some criteria like, well, they already have a bike rack and they're already given a discount or a free coffee or whatever. And we'll select some of those businesses that are already bike friendly, and there's like Black Spruce Brewing is probably one of the best ones. Like if they pay for the $75, they're probably gonna get one of these kits.
Yeah, they also do the
Yeah.
event every
Yeah.
year, the Medianorama. so-
But we would give out 15 for this summer to see if it becomes a popular program. The next summer, we can give out more to other businesses that don't have them. But the idea is like Fast Planning would certify these businesses as being bike friendly, and we would come up with a new logo. It would be very, Fairbanks-esque, not a generic bike friendly business logo. But that would be a window decal. And then like she said, also we'd have window decals for like bike repair kit inside, ask the staff, something like that. So when you walk up to the front door, you see that they're certified by Fast Planning, and then they have this thing inside. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess technically, no, Fast Planning wouldn't own it, but I don't know. I would hope that these small businesses that we're gonna be giving these to would be open to the conversation of letting go of the repair kit if they get the station.
If they lose parts, hopefully they'll replace them.
Right,
themselves.
or something like that. We're also gonna get some extra tire levers, extra patch kits, and then we're hoping to also add in an adjustable torque wrench, because I was reading that this kit is missing that, but the other kits, including the lower level kit, does have that. So I don't know why they didn't put it in, but anyways. I could talk about this all day. I'm just really excited. I wanted to bring some energy to the table. Oh yeah, and then Corey had something that he wanted to show in the vein of the bike rack conversation.
Yeah, so if I could share for just a moment. So this is a little bit off script. This isn't totally on the agenda, but it does relate to kind of what we're talking about with the bike lanes project and trying to get businesses on board with supporting bike activity. I mean, obviously, if we're adding all these lanes and infrastructure, we're encouraging it to a broader user base. So I wanted to make sure that we also try to help build up places to actually park the bikes and land them when you get to a place. So you discussed kind of bike racks. I've been talking with Parks and Rec recently. They don't have any kind of standard place to put bikes or use. I think this is kind of what we see all over our city is people locking into rails or bikes or, or to signposts or whatever. And it's
ADA
very
ramps.
improvisational. Yeah. So what I wanted to try to do, one of the issues that I think we have, especially in downtown, is that our sidewalks are already fairly narrow. There aren't a lot of places where you can put bike racks because a lot of the sidewalks just won't accommodate it and still give you enough clear space after a bike is landed there. So something that I've been thinking about is this event called Parking Day. I don't know if anyone's heard of this before, but it's kind of a once a year nationwide thing, or I think it's even global now, where you take a single parking space and you reappropriate it. And in this case, they would literally take a single parking spot and they would flip it into a park or green space. You know, it's kind of this like way to sort of point out how can we use public right of ways for alternative uses. So to try to blend these two issues with, we don't really have sidewalk space for bike spots, and you know, we do have an abundance of on-street parking in certain areas. What's the possibility of potentially coming up with some kind of a design that maybe we get permission to just occupy a few parking spaces at various locations, or we come up with some kind of design that can fit within a single stall in a surface parking lot. There are some kind of examples of sort of modular parking around town that Jackson and I have kind of seen recently, but that you make something that can be moved around. So in the winter time, when you have to do snow clearing or whatever, it's on something that's not cast into the concrete. But that diamond plate is a 1/4 inch thick steel and it weighs 80 pounds and it's never going to move. So the thought was maybe this group, or if they're interested parties in coming up with a design for something that maybe it's 4 sections of diamond plate steel and it's got a couple different amenities like tack welded or bolted to it, like a bike fix-it station, loop parking for 7 to 10 bikes, and then a bench to sit on if you are having to flip your bike over and do some work on it. And this is something that could fit within a single parking space, you know, in a parallel parking spot. So it's kind of a thought. I want to make sure again that when people finally get to a space, they don't have to go through this, you know, what inert object can I lock my bike to that is not going to get stolen or cut apart or, you know, kind of removed. So the city has no kind of standard for this. I did want to highlight one last thing is that the city of Pittsburgh has a kind of an elegant design for a bike rack that they developed. And my dream would be that Fairbanks comes up with something similar. But this is kind of an abstraction of the rivers and the configuration of the rivers in their city. So it's kind of a single post with, you know, a really simple design in it. But it'd be great if there was some kind of bike infrastructure that was ubiquitous around the community that, you know, the Parks and Rec was on board with, and, you know, private business owners could get on board with. That way, wherever you go, there's a brand associated with where you put your bike. You don't have to guess and try to find the closest thing you can.
So I was in Huntsville last summer, and the pictures that you had up of the parking spaces that were all done up, and
The parking day ones?
they had it in their downtown core on every block. And you go from block to block, and here's a parking space that has 2 swings in it.
Yeah.
For you to swing. There's one that was, you know, turf. There's one that had benches built into it, but every single one of those was built on a skid that could be hauled away by a flatbed tow truck.
Yep.
And so you could always see about having something like that built so it could be relocated for the winter and then put back to the summer.
Kind of on the top floor of the parking garage.
Yeah.
That's all Fairbanks stores all their stuff.
In the wintertime, they could just go all up into the parking lot. Yeah.
Cold storage up there.
This one, you can kind of see, I was playing with that idea that it's a skiddable or a forkable base that it could go on. But, you know, then that's at least a 4 to 6 inch riser, which isn't great. And the reason I kind of like the diamond plate is because it's a flush transition. Really easy. You're not going to step backwards and fall off a platform. You know, this is kind of a more bomb-proof, easy thing. Someone could run over the corner of it and not explode their tire. You know, hopefully they won't do that. But so anyway, this is kind of a loose, you know, ideas that we've been kind of kicking around as how can we do pop-up bike infrastructure without having to get right-of-way permits, without having to, you know, cut up concrete, only to find out that people really hate it. You know, this is a way to kind of like slowly test the waters for, and where do they make sense? You know, maybe these get deployed, we have 6 fabricated, we put them at different locations, and if it's not working in front of Sadler's, then we drag it off and take it, you know, some other place in town.
It's a beautiful
Park for
segue
public
to the
works,
next
public
station.
storage.
Yeah.
What's that wooden thing next to it, that bike rack?
Signpost?
I think it's a sign.
Sign,
I think it normally holds some sort of sign. Yeah.
This one looks like it could hold skis.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
I was glad I like a popsicle with a yellow painted heart.
There we go.
Um,
I'll take your sketch.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah. Of a design competition.
Yep, we should have.
It's like the only thing I can draw.
Oh, hard. You can't draw a bicycle? I just feel like you
That's
should be
way
able
harder than drawing a heart.
to. So Corey's comment just now about determining where bike racks might be most useful is a perfect segue to item 8D on the agenda, which is the reminder of our annual bicycle and pedestrian count. So these are the count locations, but I believe, yes, I have a map here as well, just to kind of show the distribution. There's 36 different intersections. This will be the 11th, 12th year.
13.
13th, wow.
This will be 13.
Yeah, 13th year that these counts are happening, and so over a decade of data now. And we do have the volunteer materials, which I want to talk about in a second, but we have the data on the sheets more towards the back of this.
Oh, no, you're right. It is 12. Okay.
It is
sorry.
12, okay. So first off, the counts are gonna be held this year, same week that they're always held, which is Tuesday, May 23rd, Wednesday, May 24th, and Thursday, May 25th, from 4:30 to 6:30. And we need volunteers at all of these intersections ideally, but as you can see represented in the data, that does not always occur. So my big mission this year is to try and get volunteers over all 3 days at all of the intersections. So I've come up with an alternative way for folks to sign up for intersections. I spent way too long researching different volunteer scheduling apps, and I did find one for us to work with. Unfortunately, I can't bundle all 3 days into one, but I still think the solution is pretty foolproof, I think. So first I created this Google map. I need to put links up here that will take you to where the sign up is, but basically you can either zoom to the location that you're currently standing in, or like, let's say, okay, I live at 100 Cushman Street, Fairbanks, and then zoom out a little bit. Oh, look, there is an intersection on this count right next to me. I wonder if there are any slots open, and also what is that particular location named, so I know what to look for. Cushman Street and First Ave. So we have 3 web pages, one for each day, the bike count on Tuesday, but then it links to the Wednesday and Thursday signups.
You're right, Thursday is our meeting also.
Yes, yes, I do have a note here to say, don't volunteer for Thursday if you're on the
For
committee.
committee members. yes.
For committee members. So we have what, Tuesday,
Zoom in while count.
There
Yeah, or
you go.
you can
Yeah,
zoom
you
in
can
while
zoom in while
counting.
counting, yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I'm really excited about these because they're gonna be 3 simple links. And I usually will just like send out a lot of emails to not only work colleagues, but my friends. I'm in a particular Facebook group that has a lot of bike advocates in it. And I'm just so excited to be able to send them links to places to sign up. And all they'll have to do is say, okay, I wanna count at that intersection that I just identified, and then they can select it, and then they just put their name and email, and then we'll be able to reach out to them and say, here are the materials, you can put them at home, we'll print them for you. And then we also, the swag this year is the fast moving high vis vests. I'm also open to other ideas for like something small, just to consider. We do still have some water bottles that REI donated a couple of years ago, and we have SPF chapstick and something else with SPF in it because you get crispy out there counting for sure. So I just wanted this to be on y'all's radar. I'm going to send you an email with all of the links and the link to the map and then the link to each day to sign up for. Please, please, please push this to your friends and family and people who have any interest in counting and supporting the biking ped community in Fairbanks. And then I'll send you a follow-up email as well, just with the dates so that you remember. And then I think that we have, oh yes, Jim's item. So item 8E, our final item, is an addition from Jim Richardson, our committee, curb ramp accessibility on page 47 of your packet. Page 47 highlights Jim's email about this topic, and I was hoping that you could elaborate and summarize for us. Jim.
Very easy to summarize. The handicap ramps, you know, the engineering of roads has changed over time. Used to become a corner. Now you get trucks, chance to turn, or a curb. So now that means it's a longer distance across the street. So now we recess a crosswalk and the handicap ramp. And when it snows, nobody knows just where that handicap ramp is. And so they don't get plowed. Literally, they don't. The worst one I've seen is at Golden Valley's driveway. Right now, the very little corner of the handicap ramp is visible. The rest of it isn't. Maybe after today it is. But, and they also have an issue with I don't know, maybe the type of equipment or whatever, that they don't tend to get down and clean out the handicap ramp. So then you got the road grader comes along and grades, so now you got no handicap ramp, you got the 3-inch drop off in the curb. And sometimes it's feathered with snow and ice, so there is not a drop off. But so we need an answer to that. You know, I talked to the city about First and Second Avenue bike route. They got several access ramps, and they weren't clearing them, but they're very aware of it, and they did a pretty good job this year of keeping them graded. And I don't know how they did it. I don't know if they took a rope grader to do it, or they set a piece of equipment come over. But our sidewalks are second to clarity, and that just irritates me. Vehicles can get around. People, they're second rate if they don't have a vehicle. So anyway, the concentration is to improve the crossings so that the handicap ramps exist and the road between the two handicap ramps is plowed. Oftentimes that is not plowed. And it's very tricky to get across it. You know, I would suggest a letter, I don't know, to a letter, if everybody feels the same way, a letter explaining to both the DOT and the city that more concentration has to be done in handicap ramps as well as the street between the ramps, so they're usable. And not straight, you know, ice sheets of ice.
When you say handicap ramps, are you talking about curb cuts? What are you talking about, curb cuts?
I guess it is a curb cut. I mean, I thought they were always referred to as handicap ramps.
Yeah, ADA ramps. Mhm.
I think this is a discussion that needs to happen at the seasonal
Yeah.
mobility task force,
Okay.
Because it's more than just that. I mean, the big problem is that, you know, with these pork chops and stuff like that, it's becoming more time consuming to try and clear the sidewalks to be able to get access to pedestrian signal controls, because a lot of times you have to climb up on a berm to be able to even reach the button to push it.
Yeah.
And it's a huge problem. And, you know, if they're going after it with power crew, and I can understand the desire to stay away from, you know, the pedestals and stuff, but that means they need to figure out a different way of dealing with that, because this happens all over town, both on DOT and city intersections. And, you know, the other interesting thing that I noticed this year was when they were clearing the snow at the Danby and Aurora intersection, they blew snow up high enough that it completely covered the pedestrian walk signal. I mean, it was buried in snow. You couldn't see anything when it changed, you know, supposedly to allow you to cross. So we're not making a lot of improvement on pedestrian access at intersections.
There may be good reason for this. I don't know what it might be, but it's around time. You just drive downtown on intersections right across from each other. Sometimes they'll have two of those handicap entry rays or curb cuts, I call them. And on the other side, there's just one in the middle. I mean, it drives me nuts.
That's true.
I can tell you that you've got a couple of issues going on. So again, I've worked for City of Fairbanks and currently work for DOT. It's the same operator crews that plow the sidewalks, plow the streets.
Right.
And so it's the timing. And one thing that you might be able to push is putting all those ADA ramps in. They receive federal funding, and I believe there was even a time frame that they're supposed to have the sidewalks and the ramps cleared as a part of receiving that federal funding. And for the first 2 or 3 years, they were really good about getting crews out and the sidewalks were plowed before the roads were. And they may have lost funding for an operator position to have the workforce to be able to clear those spots.
Well, in the case of the state, it's a little more complicated than that because when they start to get very shorthanded, they aren't using operators to clear the sidewalks. They're actually using DOT staff in pickup trucks. And they do a really good job. It's just there are some limitations on what you
It's
can
all
do.
operators. I know every single one of those. But currently, I know at one point during this winter, we were short 8 operators. And you can only do so much.
That's right.
That short-handed.
Well, my feeling is the priority should be the sidewalks and the streets. I know I won't get anywhere, but.
You're not alone, Jim. You're not alone, I promise you. Well, yeah, thank you for bringing that to the committee's attention, and we'll certainly add that to the agenda for the seasonal mobility task force meeting, and we'll make sure that you know when that meeting is happening as well. We'll make sure all of you know. Just want to make sure that you know, but we'll make sure that you know. Okay, so we can move on to item number 9 on the agenda, which is other issues. And I have none listed here, but as soon as I sent out the agenda, I realized that I wanted to let y'all know another outreach thing that we are doing in May. We are working with Evie Reinish of Parks and Rec, for Bike to Work Week. So Evie has asked that Fast Planning be present at, I think there are 5 different tents that are going to be a part of Bike to Work Week. 2 particular days, 2 particular sets of time, in the morning and then in the late afternoon / early evening. So essentially for the commute to work and home. So Corey and I will be present at those tents, and I'm thinking that we'll kind of split our time between all the tents unless there are some BPAC members that would like to volunteer and spread the good word of Fast Planning at a few other tents during this Bike to Work Week commitment. And I'd be more than happy to follow up with anyone via email if you're interested. Don't have to make a decision right now, but it would be the 3rd week in May. And I think that Evie said the tents are on Tuesday and Wednesday. And I actually have the notes right here. Okay, yeah, the tents are the 15th and the 17th. Oh, so they're Saturday and Monday. Oh, no, that's April. The tents are Monday the 15th and Wednesday the 17th. And those are both at 7:30 to 10:30 a.m. And then the 19th is the evening, but it's actually the Bike Week Bash. And we will be having a table there, but I think that's going to be like a collection of advocates in town. Like I think the Cycle Club's going to be at the Bike Week Bash. And I don't know if y'all are tenting during the count.
I think we are.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the purpose of those tents in the morning is to count bicyclists in 5 different locations, is my understanding. So I just wanted to let you all know that we are going to be taking advantage of that opportunity and collaborating with our local Parks and Rec. And I'd be happy to follow up with anyone if you guys want more details. So other than that, no other issues.
I have some things I'd like to bring up.
Okay.
The condition of the Johansson Path north side, it was pretty much ignored this winter, and so it was extremely frustrating. This picture was taken actually after it froze hard, but this was the approach to the college and Johansson Path on the north side, and it was just a complete sheet of ice, and before that it was a lake, and so you had no way to even get onto the path. I don't know what the issue is. It's dried up now. I don't think I've seen this before, but I mean, it was a big lake right there. And of course, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. It's just, I don't know if the engineers can take a look at that and see if there's something that didn't take place as far as the drainage. That's just solid ice.
But where is it?
This is on the north side of College Road, the Johansson overpass. This was just a picture similar to the one that Corey already had there. But anyway, the condition of the Johansson path was pretty bad this winter, and it was ignored for the most part. And so as breakup started happening, the path got even worse. It was so uneven because of melting and stuff like that. And there wasn't any effort being made to clean it up. I sent an email to Jason over at DOT, and I asked him if they could make a single pass down there. Within a couple of days, the crews had actually made 2 passes down there.
Oh, cool.
Cleared the snow off so that it's been able to melt very quickly. So I sent them a thank you email.
Thanks, Peter.
You know, and this is a discussion we need to have at the seasonal mobility task force too, about the status of that Johansson path, especially that section from the bottom of Aurora over to Pager, because that's the only route in the middle of the triangle to be able to get from one side of town to the other in the winter. And it's not maintained, it's a big problem. The new airport way bike path at the airport, the crosswalk paint has already worn off the asphalt. So I don't know if they're planning on putting more permanent paint out there, but I mean, it's just about completely gone in one lane.
That was supposed to be inlaid metal methacrylate,
Well, it's.
but
It's
apparently
vanishing.
In the 2 tire tracks on either lane, yeah, it's pretty much gone. I mean, it still exists in the center, like the dividing lines and on the fog line areas, but because there's turning traffic there, it seems like the tires just scrubbed it out.
I'll check to see if that contractor is supposed to return this summer and put the inlaid meth in.
Yeah, because they were up
I
late
can follow on that one, yeah.
When was that put in?
How long did
Last summer,
last summer, but it was pretty late, I think. by the
pretty
time.
late.
Yeah.
So we
Maybe they didn't
talk
have
a lot
temperature.
about
That's what I was thinking.
the maintenance funding problem that the state and the city have. I have been attempting to talk to some of the interior delegation about, how to remedy this situation, because it was suggested that that's what we need to do. And of course, you get a lot of head nodding that, yeah, things aren't good, but I don't get the impression that any of the legislators feel that they're in a position to want to amend the budget to be able to put more money back into it. And so I think what I'd like to do is ask if we can invite either the Northern Region Director or Jason to come to talk to us about how they do their budgeting for road maintenance, so that we can find out what the issues are as far as trying to put money back into the budget and then get the legislators to support that effort. Because I don't think that just talking to the delegation is going to accomplish anything. And what concerns me is that, we of course continue to accept all this federal money for these projects, but the state's not investing in maintenance funds. And I'm a little bit worried about what's going to happen as a result of this Richardson Highway corridor study. And, in all likelihood, there aren't going to be any major impediments to the ore truck situation. DOT is building, I think it's 11 miles of passing lanes on the Richardson Highway. And of course, that's going to take time and operators to be able to clear it. And that takes money to do it. And I'm not aware of the fact that any more money has been put into the budget to accomplish that. And we need to get at least the conversation started. This needs to change. We need to start investing in providing the resources for the state to be able to do the job that they're supposed to be doing. So anyway, I think I'd like to hear, from firsthand from the people that are involved in the budgeting, as far as what goes on that. The other thing which I was concerned about this year, I really don't understand what happened, but as far as the CMAQ equipment money, nothing was put in from the state. And I know that they've had major problems with the holders and that they'd like to get rid of them. And yet we never got any kind of a request for alternate pieces of equipment. So I just received the Bobcats. You can use Bobcats as just received them. Okay, between this week and last week. With all the attachments and stuff. Okay, so they must have self-funded that.
Yep. Yeah, we have an equipment replacement program with the expected life span, and we can pull credits out of other vehicles if we want to shorten the lifespan.
But if you're gonna phase out the holders and simply replace them with Bobcats, you know, okay, that's all right, but I mean, you know, providing more equipment is beneficial too, and the design of the Gars intersection and the design as it looks like it's gonna happen with the East Johansson, there's a lot more area, especially as far as pedestrian islands and stuff that need to be cleared. And so that takes equipment and personnel to do it. And again, I don't think that there's an investment being made to address that. I know that in the conversations I've had with DOT, they acknowledge that it's going to take more time to clear those intersections. And as a result, tier 2 and tier 3 roads are going to have to wait a little while longer to get serviced. And so we're not really making improvements in this area. So again, it's a conversation with the seasonal mobility task force, I think.
Yeah,
That's a good agenda item.
I agree. And this particular example, Peter, that you're showing is a great way to circle back to the non-motorized route maintenance priority map that we all worked really hard to create, because this is a priority one
Yep.
that the committee designated, and the fact that it looks like this and you had to call to put a request in is unfortunate, but a really great case study, I think, to continue that conversation. So thank you for documenting this, and I'm not gonna let that map get buried. So,
We've been having some interesting conversations, Corey and I, about the spelling of street names and stuff. And I think we now have weed spelled correctly. It was interesting to see that the road closed signs that the state made for the Noise Slough Bridge misspelled Tamarack completely.
It's hard to misspell
I know.
Yeah, they left the C out.
that. Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah, I mean, it works. I mean,
Well, that's just because it's a basket.
That was funny.
Basically, the bridge is completely gone now, if you haven't taken a look. There's just.
Project is happening, or all of a sudden it's happening.
Yeah.
But the other thing that kind of worries me too is the situation with like the Fifth Avenue project is a classic example of that, you know, with the overages that have happened with that project, with not only the design, but also the bid coming in as high as it did. And then the solution is they had to go after money to rob from other projects. And so these smaller projects that we are encouraging with the fast surface improvement program, you know, it seemed to me that they are potentially going to be at risk also. I mean, the project to do the Aztec subdivision roads, I think that was a funding problem because of the road service area didn't have the match. Is that what happened with that?
No, Aztec, the scope increased from what was originally nominated to us. They just wanted us to repave all the existing paved roads, and then some neighbors like, but we have a gravel road that we'd like to have as pavement. So three roads were added to the subdivision design.
But in the case of the Fifth Avenue thing, they had to go after money, you know, that was put aside, or, you know, the plan anyway, to do Mini Street. And what I'm afraid of is that as we get farther down the road and these bid projects keep coming in much higher, you know, are we going to be at risk with the smaller projects that we hope to use to repair sidewalks and paths and stuff like that? It's roughly $1 million. What we're going
25.
and, you know, these cost overruns are in the millions. So what is it going to mean when they start to look at cowls? You know, is that thing going to end up being way more expensive than what was projected? And so, you know, the tip is going to become a really fluid document, I guess.
Yep.
And I don't know what we can do about it. I mean, we're sort of overcommitted, but I think that we really need to watch out and protect these smaller projects to make sure they don't get weighted. You know, I mean, I'm still shaking my head over that Pioneer Park project. I mean, that thing is what now with the electrical outlets that they want to put in there is projected at over $3.2 million for the parking lot. I don't know. That kind of bothers me, I guess. But anyway. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't really know if that was So that's another issue, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got more comments.
Yeah, I was
Just
gonna
like-
say, so
Save
committee member
yourself.
comments. Does anyone have any additional comments?
Lock your bikes up.
Block your bikes up. Yeah. Oh, that's right. You're Scott Stoligan. You got it.
Yeah,
Like a boss. It's awesome.
yeah, it got stolen from, my friend's storage unit, and 2 days later, I saw it on the front of a city bus. I looked around
Wow.
to the transit center and parked the bus in,
Mhm.
and got my bike back.
Yeah.
Wow.
So awesome.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I know.
And so the person who took it, was he confronted or? he-
It was actually 2 guys, and they kind of, ran away.
All right. I don't know if I've ever heard of a stolen bike being recovered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
They can advertise it on the front of the bus.
It was actually in better shape than when it was stolen. The tires were inflated and everything.
Amazing. Just amazing. Yeah.
All right.
Lock your bikes up. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, so we can move on to adjournment, but before we do, I'll just note that, yeah, our next scheduled meeting is on Thursday, May 25th from 5 to 7. So don't volunteer for the bike and ped count that day, or you can call in, you can zoom in, because we are hybrid now. So yeah, we can move on to item number 11 or 12, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Adjourn.
Do I have a second? Okay, motion made by Peter Stern, seconded by Jen Richardson. Are there any objections to the adjournment of tonight's meeting? Okay, hearing none, the meeting is adjourned ahead of schedule at 6:52 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Good work.
Thank you.
A lot of topics.
Whew, it was, I know.
You kept us on track. It was good.
I really tried.
Yeah, he would have got